All right, guys, good afternoon. So the session that I'm going to talk about is deeper sales insights using analytics. You hear a lot about analytics these days, don't you? So you come across these articles that make it sound like analytics is this one magic pill that you need to fix all your problems, right? Sometimes it sounds a little too good to be true. And that's why customers always ask me why they need analytics when they have a reporting module within their CRM or within their own application. Now, we use reports for different purposes to understand the different things that is happening in our business. And when it comes to sales, reports are really important because reports sort of give you a glimpse of how much product you're selling and how much money we're making. So when reports can give you that information, where does analytics really fit in? Now, to give you a very honest answer, analytics is a form of reporting also. But it has a few characteristics that really set it apart. Now, consider this particular scenario. I'm sure most of you have come across this scenario yourself. So let's say your CEO asks you for the sales figures for the past 6 months. And so you go into your CRM, you generate a report which gives him the numbers for the last 6 months, and you send it to him. Now, he's going to take a look at that report, and let's say he notices a dip in sales in a particular month. Let's say there was a dip in sales in February 2018. So the next obvious question that he's going to ask is, what happened in February 2018? Now, you as a sales manager or someone who's in charge of sales, you need to get into your CRM application again. You need to find out what happened in February 2018. You need to figure out the different factors that influenced sales in that particular month and send him a whole new report. All this adds a lot of time and effort on your side. And during this time, your CEO or your business owner, he's just sitting there waiting for answers. But with analytics, you sort of get a lot of interactive reports with rich visualizations, which give power to the end user, in this case, your CEO or your business owner, and he can sort of drill down into those analytics reports and get a lot of deeper insight. So he can do a lot of investigative analysis himself and instantly find answers to what he's looking for. And when you do such investigative analysis, you can answer a lot of questions like why something happened the way it did, or what happened in a particular time period. And you can also do a lot of what-if analysis. So let's say as a sales manager, you're trying to experiment with a few changes in your sales process, and you're not really sure how it's going to affect the outcome of your sales. So with analytics, what you can do is you can factor in all those changes that you're considering and let analytics give you projections on what your sales is going to look like after you make those changes. So you have answers even before you go in and make changes to your sales process. And finally, analytics gives you a way of creating a lot of calculated metrics. Now, you have a lot of metrics in your CRM application, I'm sure, but you always come across situations where you need to create a lot of derived metrics or calculated metrics. So an example of a calculated metric is success rate or win rate, which is basically going to tell you the likelihood of you winning a deal in a particular region. For example, let's say I say your win rate or success rate in the East Coast is 80%. Now, what that means is you're able to win 8 out of 10 deals that you're working on in the East Coast. So this metric is calculated by dividing the total number of deals that you won divided by the total number of deals that you're working on multiplied by 100. So it gives you an idea of how likely you are to win that particular deal. So these are some of the aspects that really set analytics apart. And during the course of the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how this works with real-life examples. And I'm going to do that using Zoho Reports. For those of you who are not aware of what Zoho Reports is, it's an analytics and business intelligence software from Zoho. And it offers out-of-the-box integration with Zoho CRM. What do I mean by out-of-the-box integration? Now, as soon as you link Zoho Reports with Zoho CRM, in a matter of 5 minutes, it's going to give you over 100 different reports and dashboards just like that. And let me quickly show you an example of what those reports look like. All right, so this is the database that gets created when you link Zoho Reports and Zoho CRM. And it has a bunch of different dashboards and reports that literally just takes 5 minutes to generate. So let me show you an example of an activities dashboard. Now, this activities dashboard gives you information on the different activities, like your calls, your tasks, your emails, and pretty much everything that your sales team is doing in order to win a deal. So you have metrics like the total activities for the month, the closed activities, the open activities, and I like this metric a lot. It's let me zoom in a little bit if I can. So activities per one deal. So what it's basically telling you is the number of calls or emails or tasks that you need to perform in order to win a deal. And that's an example of another derived metric which I was talking about. And you have a few other reports like activity stream this quarter by last quarter. So basically insight into what your sales team is doing in order to win your deals. And these reports are highly interactive. You can hover the mouse over any particular section of the report that you're interested in, and it can give you a lot of information. And this information that you're seeing on the pop-up can be customized to show you more information than what you're seeing here. And another neat thing that the application can do is, let's say you're looking at the data for the entire organization. But let's say you want to look at data for a specific sales rep, or you want to know what a specific sales rep is doing. You don't need to go in and generate a whole separate dashboard or report just to see that information. You can just use these user filters here. So I have a user filter called sales rep, and it will list pretty much all the sales reps that I have in my system. And let's say I want to see what Jasmine Frank is doing. Just click on it, and the entire dashboard will refresh with data for just Jasmine Frank. And this gives you a lot of flexibility in how you find information that's going on with your sales processes. And another report that I really like is the overview dashboard, which gives you a complete overview of the sales that's happening in your organization. So you have the number of deals for this quarter, the open deal rate, the revenue, expected revenue, your success rate, which I was talking about, success rate or win rate that I was talking about just a few minutes ago. And you can also set up thresholds on your reports. So let's say I have a threshold or a sales target of $15,000 for each quarter. I can set that up as a threshold on my report, and you can visually see how far away you're from meeting that particular target. And you have a few other reports like stage history funnel, pipeline by amount and stage, and these reports are highly interactive. For example, this report is giving me the dollar amount that is sitting in each stage of my sales cycle. Now, I can see that in the qualification stage, I have about $569,000 sitting. And that's pretty much the majority of the chunk of the money that is sitting in my pipeline. And now, if I want to sort of understand what is the average deal size, I can just click on that section of the report that I'm interested in, and I get two options, view underlying data and drill down by. And I can just click on drill down by, and I get a little pop-up here, which has different fields from my potentials table. And let's say I want to drill down and look at the amount tier. I want to see what is the average deal size. I can just click on amount tier, and you'll see that the report refreshes right there in front of you. And it gives you a nice split up of the average deal size. And it looks like the majority of my deals are above $40,000. And now, if I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive and want to know who is in charge of this particular section of my deals, I can just do a drill down again. I can choose drill down by potential owner, and now I have information on who's in charge of how much amount that's making up that $469,000, which is really intuitive, and because all these reports are interactive, you can do a lot of investigative analysis and find out answers to your questions immediately. Zoho reports can do the same thing with the other applications also. So it integrates with applications from the finance suite, HR applications, IT and productivity software, and marketing applications also. It offers integration with over 40 different products. I can't fit in all the products here, but I just wanted to give you a glimpse of the breadth that Zoho Reports offers in terms of the integration. All right, so that's a quick introduction of Zoho Reports. And by the way, if you're interested in setting up this integration with Zoho CRM, you could just go to Setup, Zoho under Marketplace, and just click on the Setup Now under Advanced CRM Analytics, and you'll be able to set this integration between Zoho Reports and Zoho CRM, and you can look at the same type of dashboards and reports that I showed you with your own sales data. All right, so in today's session, we're going to look at a few scenarios where analytics can give you insight into different stages of your sales cycle. And we're going to do that by using analytics to answer some of the questions that come up in the context of sales. So the sales processes and the methodology that each company uses varies by a large degree between the different companies. What might work for one company might not necessarily work for another company. So to give you an example, I've been getting a lot of telemarketing calls from insurance companies in the last 2 weeks. And as annoying as they are, it sort of got me thinking, does cold calling people still actually work, right? But if you really think about it, the companies wouldn't be doing it unless that channel of sales is generating revenue, right? But imagine getting a phone call, like a telemarketing call from Zoho asking you to buy Zoho CRM completely out of the blue. It just wouldn't work, right? So the type of sales channel that works for you is something that as a sales manager, you need to identify very soon. And you need to put in the effort and the time to make sure that you refine that particular sales channel. So let's see how Zoho Reports can help you find out the sales channel that works best for you. Okay, so I'm going to build a report which sort of gives me a trend of the success rate that I'm having with the different channel of sales, like phone calls, emails, events, etc. So to build a new report, I just need to go to this plus sign here, click on New Report. And these are the different types of reports that I can build. I can build a chart view, I can build a tableau view, pivot view, and summary view, etc. I'm going to build a chart view because chart views are prettier. And as soon as I click on chart view, it's going to ask me what module I want to build this report on. And I'll just choose potentials and click on OK. So this is the canvas that you get in order to build your report. On the left-hand side, you have different fields from your potentials module. And in order to build a report, all you need to do is just drag these fields and drop them onto the different sections that you see on the right to build your report. So let's just call this what sales channel works best for me. And since I want to build a trend of success rate that I'm having with each of my sales channel, I first need a time function. I'm going to use the closing date from the potentials module, and I'm going to drop that onto the x-axis. And now you'll see a little drop down here, which gives you a lot of customization. Like you can set up your x-axis to show month and year, or you could do it by quarter and year, or you could do it by cyclic values like weekday, day of month, hour of day, etc. So all these can be switched at any point in time as you'd like, even after you're done building a report. So I'm going to leave it at month and year for now. And the next thing I'm going to do is add the success rate that I have with each channel of sale. So I have the success rates calculated already using custom formulas, and they're right here. So emails only gives me the success rate that I have when I only send out emails to my potentials. Drag that and drop that onto the y-axis. Now I'll also drag calls only. I'll drag trade shows, and I'll also drag and drop combined activities. So I have my x-axis, I have my y-axis. Those are the basic components that I need to build a report. And all I need to do now is just click here to generate graph, and there you go. I have the report right there in front of me. Now, this report looks a little cluttered, so let's clean it up a little bit. What the application has done is it has added each of my channel of sales to different axes. So let's first merge those axes. It still looks a little cluttered. Let's say I'm only interested in data for the last 6 months. I can easily filter that out using the filter option here. Let me zoom in a little bit. So that is your filters tab. And now, since I'm only looking for the details for the last 6 months, I'll just drag and drop closing date onto the filter section. And I can choose to filter by actual values, seasonal values, or by relative values. You just click on relative values, and I should see an option to choose a month. And I'm just going to choose to include data for the last 6 months. So just click on last 6 months and generate the report. And now I have the success rate for each of my channel of sales. So if you look at the red line here, which represents the success rate for emails only, it looks like my success rate is anywhere between, 25% to 40%. But if I compare that with this blue line, which represents trade shows, my success rate is at about 50% in November 2017, 83% in December, 40% in January. So this is more of a consistent sales channel for me in terms of winning deals. So based on this report, I think it's safe to say that the best sales channel that works for me is doing trade shows. So we've used analytics to answer the question, what sales channel works for me? But how cost effective is it? Now, to do a trade show, I'm probably going to spend, let's say, $8,000. But the amount of money that I'm putting into that trade show needs to bring in similar returns. It doesn't make sense for me to spend $8,000 on a trade show and generate a revenue of $1,000. That's just absolutely stupid. So even after you find out the sales channel that works for you, you need to make sure that that particular sales channel is also cost effective. Now, this report is available by default in Zoho Reports. Let me pull that up. So it's called COGS versus sales versus profit for the last 12 months. This report is available. If you've already integrated Zoho Reports with your Zoho CRM, you'll be able to see this report. And this factors in the amount of money that goes into making the sale and compares that with the sales value and the projected profit. So it's important to maintain a good ratio between these three values, because if you end up spending a lot of money on making the sale, you're not really going to have a good profit margin. So this is an ideal trend that you should be aiming for, wherein the cost of sale is consistently lower than the sales value, so that you generate a decent profit margin, which is represented by that red line there. So this is represented as a trend line because it's easy to get carried away when you're starting to spend money on trying to sell your product. So this report automatically refreshes and always gives you the data for the last 12 months so that you can always keep track of selling your product. We cannot have a conversation about the cost of sale without talking about marketing spend, because marketing spend contributes to the majority of the money that goes into selling your product. And that is the reason why, understandably, bosses, the first question that they come up with when a marketeer proposes a sales campaign or a marketing campaign is, how much money is this going to cost us? And how much money is it going to bring in? So it's important to always have an answer for the ROI. But calculating the ROI is not that simple, because there's just too many factors that you need to consider to come up with a decent ROI, which is consistent. So fortunately for you, Zoho Reports has a report pre-built, and it's called Campaigns Spend versus Revenue Generated. So this again compares three different values. It compares the campaign spend with the actual revenue, and the expected revenue. Now, this report serves two purposes. First thing, marketeers can use this report to come up with projections when they're proposing similar type of campaigns. And once the campaign is completed, they can always use this report to show how much money or how much ROI that particular campaign generated. And that gives a lot of credibility to the marketeer. So let's take a look at this particular report, for example. Amongst all the different types of campaigns that I'm running, it looks like every time I do a PR release, that's when I end up making a lot of money. And you can see that evidently on that particular graph. And now, if I get curious and I want to know where all these deals are coming from, I can again use that drill down function, click on the section of the report that I'm interested in, click on drill down by, and choose lead source. And this report is going to refresh immediately and give me details of where all these leads were generated from. And out of all these lead sources, it looks like online store is generating the most revenue. So I can make an informed decision and make sure that in the future, when I make a PR release, I include links that take people to my online store so that I can easily convert on the leads that I'm getting from my marketing campaign. So those are examples of decisions that you can easily make when you're able to do a lot of investigative analysis using analytics. So we talked about marketing. Let's talk about the sales cycle for a little bit. So this is an important question to which a sales manager needs to have an answer to. How long is my sales cycle? I mean, the duration of your sales cycle is going to depend to a large extent on the type of product that you're selling and also the dollar amount of that particular product. But universally, we can all agree that we all want our sales cycle to be as short as possible. So if you're a sales manager, I'm going to introduce you to two metrics that are going to be your best friends for life: average stage duration and average stage velocity. Now, when you look at your sales cycle, there's going to be different stages. Like there's the initial stages where you do the lead qualification. Once you do the lead qualification, you try and understand their requirements. Once you understand the requirements, you do a demo and then move on to do a proof of concept, after which your sales guy sends out a price quote and you get into the negotiation phase and then close the deal. So it's important to sort of understand how much time your sales guy is spending in each of these stages, because that'll give you critical insight into what are the strong areas for your sales team and what are the weak areas. And in addition to monitoring the amount of time that they spend in each of these stages, you also have to ensure that the deal is progressing from one stage to the other with considerable momentum. And that's where average stage velocity comes in. It tells you how fast the deal is progressing from one stage to the other. And a combination of these two metrics will give you critical insight into finding out if there are any specific bottleneck areas in your sales process. Now, let me pull up that report. And it's called Momentum of Winning a Deal. Again, this is a default report that's available with Zoho Reports if you already integrated it with your Zoho CRM. So this has two metrics: average stage velocity and average stage duration. Let me uncheck average stage velocity and let's concentrate on average stage duration for a second. And I'm going to zoom in. And these are the different stages: qualification, needs analysis, initial offer, proposal or price quote, negotiation stage, decision making, and winning the deal. Now, just by looking at this report, I can say that the duration of my first two stages is really high. That is the qualification stage and the stage where I'm doing a lot of requirement analysis is sort of contributing to a majority of the time in my sales cycle. Now, I would understand if my sales guys are spending a lot of time towards the tail end of the deal, because that's when a lot of negotiations happen. That's when you talk about how much you're going to offer your customer and if that's going to fit his budget and all that. So if my sales team is spending a lot of time towards the tail end, it makes a lot of sense. But in this particular case, I can see that the initial qualification and requirement analysis is taking the most time. And this is a clear indicator that this is a bottleneck area for my sales team, and they probably need to speed up things in this particular area. And let's add average stage velocity and see if it corroborates our assumption. So if you look at the average stage velocity represented by the blue section of the graph, you can see that the deal is progressing a lot slower in the initial stages, and it has sped up towards the end. So by comparing or by using the combination of average stage velocity and average stage duration, I can easily find out what my bottleneck areas are. So talking about bottleneck areas reminds me of my time as a sales engineer. So through the course of my tenure, I worked with a lot of sales guys. And what I always noticed was the most successful sales guys are the ones who are really good towards the tail end of the deal. Now, our sales cycle usually involved requirement analysis, where I talk to the customer and find out what he needs. And once it matches what the product can do, we set up a demo. After the demo is done, I do a proof of concept. And after that, the sales guy sends out a price quote. And there comes a period of complete silence after that, because the sales guy sends the price quote, and apparently the customer is sort of having internal discussions, but you don't really hear a lot from the customer in that particular time frame. And the most successful sales guys were the ones who always knew when to go in for the kill, even though there is a period of silence. So the tail end of a deal is usually a bottleneck area for most sales guys. And I have a report that can easily help you identify if that is the case is the same with your own sales teams also. So this is a report that compares the open quotes, the won quotes, and the lost quote count. And if you look at these two sales guys, Pete and Roger, you can see that the number of open quotes that they have is a lot less than the number of quotes that they've won, which means they don't really have a lot of trouble in converting deals into actual deals that they win after they send out the price quote. But if you look at the other sales guys that I have, in the first few sales guys that you see here, you can see that they have a lot of open quotes, but very few quotes that they've actually won, which is an indicator that the tail end of a deal is sort of a bottleneck area for these particular sales guys. Once you get such insights, you can always set up training sessions or do your KT to help your sales guys progress through the tail end of a deal. So reports like this give you a lot of insight into how your sales processes are working. So to summarize, this is what you get with advanced analytics. Like I said, it gives you out-of-the-box analysis of your sales data in less than 5 minutes. All you need to do is just go to that setup screen that I showed you and link Zoho reports with Zoho CRM, and you'll get all the reports that I just showed you in a matter of 5 minutes. And you get a lot of interactive reports with rich visualizations, which help you do a lot of investigative analysis. And all this is self-service. Now, what I mean by self-service is that the power is with the end user, where he can get answers to the questions that pop up in his mind instantly, because the report can interact with him right there. Or he doesn't have to wait to generate a whole new report to come up with answers to his questions. And these are the different ways you can share reports. You can share reports with individual users. You can create groups within Zoho reports. And let's say you can have a separate group for sales teams. You can have a separate group for your finance teams. And you can share reports with specific users or groups. And in addition to that, you can also publish reports in your intranet portal. So if you have an intranet portal which your employees access, you can just get a published URL for the reports or dashboards that you're interested in, and just take that and embed that in your intranet portal. So they don't even have to come to Zoho Reports to see the different metrics or dashboards that you want to show them. And finally, analytics has an ability to blend data from multiple sources. So I think that brings me to the end of my presentation.